And welcome back to Atlantic Corvea. Today's Atlantic Corvea comes from Cutie Kitten 1, who asked the question, what Atlantic Corp do Ed, and Eddy belong in? Now, this is one of those scenarios where I can't give, obviously, one answer for the group, because they're three very different individuals. So we got to look at each of them individually. And it's actually not that hard, I think, to really pinpoint some Lantern Corps for them. Then this is due to the fact that they're young and they have some defined personality. So what I'm really just going to do is give each of them a single Lantern Corps I think they belong in, but that's still three I'm going to go over and explain why I don't think they belong in any of the others. So let's start with Eddy. Eddy is the de facto leader of their little trio. He's the conniver, he's the schemer, he's always trying to score. But in the movie they did, we do learn where a lot of that comes from. Well, it's still probably a part of his personality. It does come from the fact that his brother pretty much beat the crap out of him, and it was actually kind of abusive. And he was just trying to impress his brother most of the time. So ultimately, it's less Eddy's fault that he's the way he is, and more a product of his environment. Although it's still a part of his personality, and probably still ended up being a part of his personality throughout life. So where does that leave him? Well, I think that's kind of obvious, but let's just go over it real quick. First off, none of the Eds are Black Lantern rings because they're not dead. Although there's a fan theory that the entire cul-de-sac is in purgatory, but we learned that's not the case. Obviously, because they go outside the cul-de-sac. But none of them have died, nor are they dead, nor do they worship death. They're obviously not Black Lanterns of death. The White Lantern ring. Now, someone brought up, isn't the White Lantern ring a combination of all the light colors coming together, all the emotional spectrum? So shouldn't she have to qualify in a different manner for it? Yes, it's a combination of all the other Lantern color lights minus the black coming together, but that's because white is a combination of all the other colors. So that in terms of light, in terms of the light spectrum, that's why they needed all the colors to come together to create the first White Lantern ring. But in terms of what the White Lantern ring represents, it's the Lantern ring of life. So it needs to be attached, A, to a living individual, which all the Eds qualify for, but B, also someone who actually, helps garner, but nurture and protect life. Live life to their fullest. And the Eds, they're kids, but they don't really do that. So the White Lantern ring's a no-go. For Eddy, green's a no-go because even though he's kind of conquered fear, he's still very much a coward. He's still very much afraid of his brother and people in the cul-de-sac until that point, and the Cankers. So there's no way he could be a Green Lantern. Furthermore, I don't think any of the Eds really could qualify for green. None of them really have the willpower for it, and are ultimately still guys who get frightened very easily. None of them are scary at all, so they're not fear lanterns. While they all blow their tops occasionally, even Double D does, none of them are rage lanterns. Except for that time Ed had that pebble in his shoe. At that point, he would have been the most dangerous of Red Lanterns. But sans pebble in his shoe, he's never going to be a Red Lantern. So with Eddy, that still leaves us now with Sapphire, Indigo, Avarice, and Hope. I took Love out of the picture for Eddy because, let's be honest, it doesn't really work for Eddy's character. Yeah, he loves his brother, but that's not what motivates him. Impressing his brother, sure, looking up to his big bro, but that's because his big bro would beat the crap out of him. Same with Compassion. And that's not to say that Ed's without compassion. That's the thing. All the Eds seem to have compassion. It's just not Eddy's defining trait is the problem. So that leaves Hope and Avarice, and I think it's pretty obvious ultimately which one I went with. He's not, they all probably got some level of hope in him, but hope that the scam will go well, hope that, they're going to be able to change things, whatever, but it's Avarice. Eddy's Lantern Corps is Avarice. He was, and by the end of the series, probably still was, a very greedy individual. While he probably improved by the series end, and where everyone finally accepted the Eds, it's not likely he's going to be able to be a Lantern of any other color but Avarice. I think it's just in his DNA to just kind of be greedy by nature. So yeah, Avarice definitely is Eddy's Lantern Corps. But what about Ed? Well, Ed was a bit of a different character. I've already gone through the majority of Lantern Corps here, so we still have, and none of the other two really qualify for Avarice. That's Eddy's Corps. And plus, there can only really be one. Well, let's be honest, or let's be fair. There can be more than one Orange Lantern, but because of the nature of the Orange Lantern ring, the Orange Lantern Corps is at its strongest when there is only one member, because avarice, giving out rings is the very opposite of avarice. So that's the catch with the Lantern Corps of or Lantern Corps of Light, Lantern Corps of the avarice Orange Light. So that really then just leaves hope, compassion, and love. I think I said Ed, sorry. With Ed, he's unfortunately the dimwit of the group, and he's not a bright kid. But what it makes up for is the fact that he is very loyal to his friends, his family, even though his sister Sarah is a bit of a bitch. He still loves his sister, and he will do what he can to protect his sister. And ultimately, that comes out of the loyalty, which, while not a clear-cut trait of love, I think shows that Ed's caring for others is strong enough to be considered for the Lantern Corps of love, ultimately. He seems to be someone who just naturally cares, and I think it's just because he's a very simple kid. Now, it does seem to come with the fact that he's got the strength of a monster, but Ed's overall emotional strength seems to come from his ability to actually care. And, his concern and, love for his friends and family, despite how they may treat him sometimes. That leaves Double D. And Double D, I actually felt was the second easiest of the three to really pin down. Well, Eddy is clearly a personification of greed. Ed seems to lean towards Lantern Corps of love. Double D's neuroses and concern and all that seems to ultimately lend itself to him being a Lantern Corps member of the Indigo tribe of compassion. This is because he's the only one who seems to really show concern towards others the majority of the time. Well, Ed is very caring and protective of his friends. He's not one to try to solve problems for others by hearing out the problems and trying to fix them. Whereas Double D is someone who will do that. He will give advice. He will, actually hear people out and all that. Whereas Eddy doesn't care, and Ed is too oblivious to it. Double D is the one of the group who does seem to take that the most seriously. So I would say that lines him up, I think, the strongest contender to be an Indigo Lantern. So when it comes to the three of them, Double D, or Ed, I think, is a Sapphire. Double D is an Indigo. And Eddy himself is an Avarice Lantern. That being said, this is just my opinion. There are 6 other Lantern Corps. I do think there is probably an argument for maybe a couple of these. Like I said, put a pebble in Ed's shoe, he could be a Rage Lantern. At certain intervals, they might have been Lantern members of Hope. But I don't think Hope just really fits them. But I can see an argument for it. The only one I just can't see an argument for is the Black Lantern Corps. They're not dead. They've never died. They're kids, except for maybe an ant or something like that. They've never taken a life. And even if they had, then it's never been on the mass scale where they could just be a Lantern Corps member of death just from sheer kill count alone. So ultimately, I go Sapphire for Ed, Indigo for Double D, and Avarice for Eddy. But let me know what you think. If you think different, that's cool. Put in the comments below. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. So thanks for watching. See you later. Hit that bell to be notified. I'll see you later. I'm just repeating myself now. I'll see you again next time.